My name is Eric Weiss. I'm here with Dorkshelf at Gamercamp talking to Jilly Murray, one of the co-writers of Assassin's Creed Liberation, one of the writers for Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and the lead writer of Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry, which comes out sometime in the next year for the opening DLC. So I guess to start out, you did not start out looking to get into games writing, but you became a games writer with the Assassin's Creed franchise. How did you get your start in creative writing, and how did you end up in gaming?
That is actually a long story that is the subject of my Gamercamp talk today. To make a long story short, I went to theater school, I became a web developer, I started writing novels, I had 2 books published, young adult breakdancing books for girls. I took a trip to Ethiopia, landed myself in immigration trouble, came back, played a lot of video games, and about halfway through Mass Effect 2 realized that someone was writing these and that person could be me.
So how do your previous writing experiences, like writing these books about breakdancing, does any of that ever creep into what you do for Assassin's Creed?
Well, that one, not for Assassin's Creed, but the first game I wrote was actually Your Shape Fitness Evolved 2012. And so it was because I'd written these dancing books and could translate movement into words and help people understand how to move that I was able to get the job writing for the fitness game. So although it doesn't seem obvious at all, my young adult fiction did actually connect directly to my game writing.
And I guess the follow-up from that is, how does writing for a game differ from some of the other writing you've done? You said you've done theater writing before, so that would be like you're used to writing scripts and dialogue, but how do novels and writing stage directions, for example, translate into writing for a more open-ended game?
Well, games are fundamentally collaborative, and it's really, I always say that the writer writes the script, but the team creates the story. So you have game designers, mission designers, all kinds of technical factors, ideas coming in from everywhere, and that's what makes a game story. If you're writing a novel, you're probably sitting alone in a room with all of your self-doubt for 2 years, just trying to make it happen. When you're writing a game, you're in a room full of people who are all passionate, or hopefully passionate, we are on Assassin's Creed, about making a game together, and it's a very different energy and it's a very different skill set, because what it introduces is needing to get along with people, figure out how to incorporate their ideas into what you're doing, how to get them to embrace your ideas, and how to figure out how all of it makes the game story stronger.
Does it actually help to have that feedback loop in the office? Because I know that it can be, when creative writing can be a very solitary exercise sometimes. Sometimes it really does help to have that response when you're writing and during the process.
Yeah, well, a good writer in any genre will seek out feedback as often as possible and anytime appropriate, and learning to adjust to feedback is a really important part of becoming a writer for anything. For games, it's really important to get the balance right on the team. You need to get your team caring about story so that they respect what you're doing, and then you need in turn to respect them by really listening to what they have to say and making sure that you're always making a game that everyone feels passionate about, that it's not just becoming your pet project.
And I guess especially with a game like Assassin's Creed, where you do have this very open world, how do you keep the story coherent, knowing that that everybody won't see everything that happens, all the story that you've written for the game?
Well, I think usually what happens is we have key story points that everyone is going to hit. We do have some control over that. And then what is fun about games is that when you introduce open elements, side missions, assassination contracts, collectible documents, it really gives the player the freedom to indulge in as much or as little as the broader story, and sort of even to shape, for example, like their own experience of how Edward Kenway was a pirate. The way I play, because I'm just not a 100%er, I'm pretty likely to play to like 63%, so my experience is going to be very different from someone who actually goes and finds all of the stuff and sees all the nooks and crannies. They're going to have a different understanding of the events.
Do you ever find that you spend a lot of time writing something that you know not everybody is going to see? That you put that you left these Easter eggs for other players to find?
Yes, and it's awesome, because when you're writing that, you know that not everyone is going to see it, but you know that the people who see it are going to know what it is. They're going to care. They're probably going to go online and talk to someone about it. So there's quantity and there's quality, and I feel like the type of attention that those little bits of apocrypha get is really high quality.
And any particular favorite examples, or are those do you have to play the game to find those?
I would advise anyone currently playing Black Flag to nose around in the present day environment and hack computers, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff hidden there. That'll be a lot of fun for longtime fans.
So I guess also to talk a little bit about diversity, because with Liberation you had a black female protagonist, and for Assassin's Creed 3 there was Connor was the Native American protagonist. So I guess first of all, how exciting is it for you to be able to get to work on these characters who don't resemble the characters you normally see in games?
They don't normally resemble the characters we see in games, but they do resemble the characters I normally find in my writing. There's sort of an uncanny similarity between what I've been able to do on AC, even though it takes place in history, and what I've always done in my own writing, which tends to be more contemporary. So I'm just grateful for all of the freedom and opportunities that we get on Assassin's Creed to think about these other populations that were around in the 18th centuries, the Taino, Jamaican Maroons, all these types of characters that were there before colonists or pirates arrived. A lot of what I get to do is to fill in those gaps and explain who else was there and what are their stories. And that's really exciting.
And I guess to kind of follow up on that, because I know this is a trap that I've fallen into on more than one occasion, where a lot of the people calling for more diversity are, in a lot of cases, still white men or people who are part of a traditional establishment. So what are and it seems like they're still based on a lot of assumptions. What are the things that people who are having that conversation should be talking about more that they aren't talking about right now?
In the case of women, and this is something I'll be talking about next week at GDC Next, I think what we would really love to see is more characters who are normal people. We see a lot of entrants into the category of kick-ass women who can do it all when we see women characters in video games, or maybe in games like GTA we get women as antagonists and as sort of passive accessories to male characters. But what would be great is if we could start to see more women protagonists who are real people. Average women thrust into extraordinary situations, survivors, people who don't get it right all the time, people who are barely keeping it together. Actually, it would be nice to see that kind of variety in most video game protagonists, and what I often find is that when I talk about diversity, I'm really just talking about good writing for everyone, which is what it's all about.
Is that something that, are there any examples outside of Assassin's Creed that you think have done that very well lately?
The Last of Us had good women characters. Gone Home gave us some insight into younger women. Even like Thomas Was Alone gives us the adventures of gendered polygons that have very distinct personalities, regardless of their gender. So I think there are actually a lot of people doing good work and a lot of good games. What we really need to do is pay attention to them and encourage them.
How does the current there's been kind of a lot of talk about this in the media the past year. Anita Sarkeesian has had her video series going, and it's gotten a lot of people talking, and also it's created a lot of backlash. How do you think those kind of debates will move things forward, and do you think that is going to lead to more diversity down the line?
We have to remember that games is a very young genre, and we're basically joining a discussion that's already been in progress for hundreds of years. So I don't think we can expect games to solve everything by themselves, with a 5-month slice of what's happening on the internet. I do think it's very important. The fact that there are people like Anita Sarkeesian who care enough to open the debate actually gives people like me who are just trying to write games, it gives me some space to be able to do that. And it's very helpful to know that there are allies out there, people who care, who want to see this happen.
What would you say to anybody who's looking to get into game writing, either from a diversity perspective or just somebody who wants to write?
I would tell them, first of all, write a lot in any genre that matters to you. Experience the feedback cycle, experience the rejection, find a way to get your work in print or published. make games. I always suggest people make a twine game. No one, as far as I know, no one's ever emailed me back and said, hey, I did it, check it out. So I would love for someone to send me a twine game that they made as an experiment in game writing. And then finally, I think just get out and meet people in the industry at events like this one, Gamercamp, or Twitter especially is where the game industry really exists when it's procrastinating. It's a fantastic place to meet everyone and find out what's going on.
All right, I think that covers most of it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck with your talk tonight.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Weiss. That's all for now for Gamercamp, and thank you for watching.